Undeniable Culture podcast, where we talk about the business's creativity and what makes us audaciously creative. I am Jonathan Menjivar-Lopez, and I am the CEO and brand strategist at Undaunted Agency.
And I am Ashton Edwards-Butler, and I am the creative director here at Undaunted.
And I am Myca Williamson, the account executive at Undaunted. And we're really excited for you to join us today for this conversation around what it means to be audaciously creative, as well as talk to us about our experience at South by Southwest.
Yeah.
You guys ready?
So excited.
South by Southwest was cool.
It was cool.
I'm not gonna lie.
We walked so much.
Well, let's dive right in. So before we get into the South by Southwest conversation, I think we should kind of talk to each other and everyone else about what it means to be audaciously creative to the Undaunted team. Jonathan, why don't you kick us off?
That's a good question, and not one that I have like a solid answer to.
On your own word.
Yeah, I think we spent a lot of time thinking about what Undaunted is, as being a creative agency, building really amazing brands and really amazing assets for people. And when we put it together and I started seeing kind of like what makes us unique is we're bringing so many out of the box ideas for clients in the higher education, nonprofit, smaller businesses, that we're bringing ideas to them that are a little bit out of the box. And I wanted to find a word that was impactful and kind of had its own kind of meaning and stuff. And audacious just stood out as being kind of like, you have the audacity.
Yeah.
You have the audacity to say that, all right? And that's kind of a little bit of what we bring to the table for organizations that are kind of really cut and dry sometimes. That's it.
Yeah. To your point, there isn't a perfect word or answer to that, because I think it changes a little depending on what we're doing, because what's audacious for one situation is quite, the norm for another one. So I think there's a flexibility to it and unexpectedness, which is, part of that lightning in a bottle kind of energy. But I think if I had to boil it down, it's a lot of pushing the envelope and not necessarily doing the first thing that comes to mind. It's like, how can we really solve this problem and stand up for, what's going to be the best solution?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like when I hear the word audacious, I think of something really bold, or, to your point, like pushing the envelope. Because whenever you hear someone has the audacity, right, it's like they probably did something that maybe other people were thinking but would have never done, or say something that other people wouldn't have necessarily said. And so I think to couple a quality like that with creativity is a really bold pairing.
There's a little bit of rebellion in it too, which I personally love.
Yeah.
So when we talk about, our audacious creativity, I guess I'll start with you, Ashton, since you're a creative director. Where do you draw a lot of your inspiration when it comes to your work?
It comes from a lot of places, and we always have this phrase about pulling from your visual well, which is just the accumulation of all of your experiences, especially visual ones, but going out into the world and experiencing it and bringing it into your work. Sometimes that's looking at what your other peers are doing. Sometimes it's going to places like South by Southwest and just being in the energy of different places. It can be travel. It could be going to a museum. Just so many things that you can bring into your work. And I think the biggest thing is, if you're not experiencing the world, you can't relate to it.
Oh, yeah. I love that. What about you, Jonathan?
And I think making this podcast is a little audacious. It's just, I don't find myself in front of a camera or, with a microphone in my hand very often.
Except for every day on Slack.
Except for the Slack huddles, yeah. But, it's different, right? It's being audacious it's hard to describe, to be honest. It's really, really hard to describe when you're sitting there and you're trying to explain, this is what audacious means. It's more of when you see it,
you feel it. Yeah.
which is how they define art, by the way. It's like, oh, I can't define it, but when I see it, I know it.
Yeah. It's like the emotion that it evokes. Yeah.
They're evoking.
Yeah.
I mean, on that topic, like, how do you feel about like the fact that like a little bit of what we do is bringing art to business organizations and, you know, nonprofits and just these institutions?
So personally, coming from an art background, I have a BFA. There's always this question of like, is design and design solutions that are often in marketing and advertising, is it art or are you selling out?
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's the business aspects literally needs you to sell.
Yeah.
But if you take away the soul of something, then people don't want to react to it or interact with it, buy it, bring it into their lives, nothing. So it's kind of the marrying of two different sides of your brain, opposite ideas and philosophy. I think very much design branding can be art, and it evokes much of what art does. There's color theory. There's, you know, trying to spark an emotional reaction. All of that comes from an art place. So I think, yes, it is art. Just
and
maybe flair of business.
Yeah, and I think you can't, at this, especially in this day and age, I think you can't have one without the other, right? You know, there's people that are usually more like quantitative, more technical, first thinkers, and then you have people kind of like us, right, that are more qualitative, maybe more creative first thinkers. But I think we both sides need each other, right? Like if you build a spreadsheet or you have some data or graphs, if you don't have a way to like visually represent it in a way that people can consume the information or understand the information, then, you know, what's the point of the information? And I think vice versa, if you have, you know, a creative project or something like that, but you don't necessarily have the technical know-how to be able to like dispense this, you know, creative project to people who could benefit from it, then you're missing out on something there too. So I feel like there's definitely a synergy that is important and that I think both sides can benefit from.
Yeah, I totally agree. And moreover, art is a reflection of culture. It always has been. It's told our histories. It's, you know, dated the very essence of what it means to be alive during certain time periods. So I think we do live in a society that's run by brands and advertising, and that is very much a reflection of our experience right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of like pop culture history classes revolve around like, you know, this brand was doing something like this, you know, and these are the outcomes and stuff. So
right,
it does have a really big impact on culture. I think that kind of makes sense, you know, that is kind of the combination of the two. I will say, the way I always envision it, you know, is a little more like an experience like when you go out to the mountains and you hike up and you go to like the peak of the mountain and then you look out and there's a landscape and there's a very nice vista, you know, and it looks really, really cool. Like that's what I picture, like what people want from a brand experience sometimes is like you come to a revelation and then you walk away with like wanting to do something, you know, inspiring or something cool.
Yeah.
You know, it motivates you to take action a little bit.
Or feel like you have spent your time well.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm going to have to do taxes, I want to have as pleasant of an experience as possible.
Yeah.
That.
It's really close to tax season, so I think it's on my...
Yeah. So what are some of y'all's favorite projects that you've worked on? Just in terms, we're talking about audacious creativity. So what are some of the projects that, you know, you guys have been a part of that you feel really allowed you to show and display your creativity?
I have an out of the box answer to that one.
Go for it.
We've worked on the Community Behavioral Health Conference in Denison, Texas for many years now. I think it's now 4 years running for me, but 6 conferences total for Undaunted as a whole. And every year it always amazes me how complicated and how involved it is to produce a conference from the marketing standpoint, from, you know, a communication standpoint on behavioral and mental health, right? And it's a little bit of it's more of a rural community kind of setting that this conference is in. So there's a little bit of, there's less access to that information like
Right.
it would be in DFW or other metroplexes. So I feel like that group that decided we're going to put this together, we're going to make this happen, was an audacious idea just from the get-go.
Yeah.
We're like, we're going to provide this to our community because we see like there's issues with like, you know, how can we create jail diversion programs so that not, you know, people who don't need to go to jail don't. How do we provide services where none exists? And
Right.
that was kind of their audacious idea coming to life, and then putting all those pieces together. And then for us, like on the marketing side of things, the brand development side of things, it's like, I think one of the things we always talk about is how the brand is so tranquil. It brings so much peace, and
Yeah.
it really allows the content to shine when people are coming in. And I've always really have been impressed with how much longevity that conference branding has. It does evolve. CBHC as a brand has evolved over time. And I'm really excited every year about the stuff that we produce. Like this year, we're doing more like the tiled photography that we got last year. And that looks really, really cool. I'm really impressed by that. But I've always been impressed by it every year. And it's a favorite project of mine because of how the brand has stayed consistent, yet evolved over time.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big, audacious feat for us.
Definitely. I think for me, it's a smaller thing we did. When I first came on with Undaunted, we got to do a poster for the NRC for Juneteenth. It was a holiday that still, like, a lot of people don't know about that much, despite it has been a holiday for a really long time. So I got to educate myself, which was great. I always love doing that. But then we have this committee that was coming together to try and bring that into Sherman. And they were really reaching out and wanting to educate the entire community of Sherman and say, come and celebrate with us and learn about your history and everything. So we got to make the poster for that and some educational cards. It was a little challenging because the educational cards had to be for all reading levels.
Yeah.
So they couldn't afford to do something for each group. So you had to be able to read it in 4th grade and 12th grade and it'd be interesting
Right.
and understandable. So, I really enjoyed that challenge and finding imagery that was representative of that. And I really admired the group because in small towns, it can be really hard to introduce something new
Yeah.
and have your voice. So I really loved being a part of that project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds to me like, and I think this is something that, really drew me to Undaunted was, there's this aspect of audacious creativity, but a lot of it is like rooted in community and, togetherness and, social impact. And I think that in itself is bold too, So in what ways do you guys see us continuing to be audaciously creative in 2023? I know we've kind of set some new goals and we have new projects in the works, but in terms of like the horizon and kind of what we see for ourselves, what does that look like?
Oh, it's me.
Well,
We're looking to you with the visionary.
I think, there is so many things, right?
Yeah. We were just talking about that today.
We were at lunch over some really delicious Southern food.
It's delicious.
What is it called? Ida
Claire.
Claire. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great.
So good.
I love their branding too.
Yeah, they have
Mhm.
great branding.
Shout out to Ida Claire.
This is not sponsored.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is that we are expanding our team and we brought on some people that really reflect our cultures, not just where we are, but where we want to be. People we can grow with who can really bring something to the table and help us be audacious and make challenges and make really great work.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's like as a direct response to the fact that a lot of our current clients are really seeing, that there's more opportunity to also expand their brands and, search new opportunities to reach their clients and potential clients as well. And a lot of that is through the work that we do with them. So we've responded to that and to fill those requests and those needs. That's also giving us the opportunity to search new, more intense projects, I would say. Yeah, things that are big organizations normally would be tackling, but because we believe in that community aspect, we believe in providing really quality work at all levels, then more organizations are more than happy to work with a smaller agile team who is going to give them the time of day to talk through their ideas, figure out what's at the core of them, not just like, hey, here's an idea, we're going to make it for you, and then here it is, exactly what you asked for, but instead a collaborative effort of like, here's my thought on how I feel about this. Now let's put it to the test. Let's get the strategy team involved and see if it does need to be built this way or if it needs to be built a different way.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing for us that helps us push the envelope and be audacious, is that we do a ton of research.
Yeah.
What's the real solution here? How much is just an assumption we're making? How can we move past our biases to really have great results? And we were talking about this, but it really helps a client feel seen and heard, and so that the solution at the end of the day isn't just like a Band-Aid. It's something that's really going to work for them and even surprise them in a positive way. Yeah.
Yeah. I just had that case too with a client who we built a website for them in 2020. We really built their brand from the ground up, and they came back and they were like, hey, all that work we did, 2.5, 3 years ago has really now started paying off like this month. And now it's starting to be like, we need more assets to account for that. And it's a long play that people are people who are focused in on branding are concerned on. So that's a little tough sometimes. Yeah. It's a little tough to have a client who's committed to seeing those results and, commit to, us implementing a process or a brand and something, and then it yield results, way further down the road.
Especially through the COVID-19 pandemic, like for someone to be able to take assets that we made and it helps them survive through something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really awesome, yeah.
So let's transition into South by, so we're talking about, our team and our audacious creativity. And I think South by Southwest is one of those incredible hubs to really, connect and express and learn. So let's just kick it off by just talking about some of your favorite moments, and then we can let's go from there.
Ooh, there's so many.
There were so many sessions and so much information going on, but there's like 3 that stick out to me on the learning side of things. Like, especially as we went there, to immerse ourselves in brands and our industry at large, see what was out there and have that refresher. I think it was great to do the sessions, but also do the networking portion of it. People who have similar backgrounds as us in our industry. I don't know if I can narrow down it to one cool thing.
Maybe could you talk about maybe like one of the important things that like you guys learned, and that I guess a valuable piece of knowledge that people might find interesting or useful?
I think the one you talk about a lot since we came back was the priming, rhyming, and timing and other marketing BS.
Yes. Yeah, actually, okay. Behavioral science has been at a core of, CBHC, what we just talked about, the Community Behavioral Health Conference. My wife, she loves psychology and behavior science. She's actually working in that field. And so we've had extensive discussions on what it means to bring some of those conversations in to branding work and marketing work. And so I really did not, outside of like a few YouTube videos, didn't have a sense of what that meant for our industry until I went to that session, because it was really, really fascinating to one, that it was a session that was being provided, and 2, how a lot of the content that we are producing, we're thinking about those things. about how to prime people so that they are in the right headspace to consider our products, consider the services of our clients, and, you know, then creating things that are really catchy and engaging and fun, and, you know, that communicate properly in a way that resonates with people's heads, right?
Yeah, I think the example she used is like, if you were to think about your favorite commercial, it's probably a jingle,
Yeah.
right? Like 877 Cash Now,
Yeah.
or the BK Whopper song.
Okay.
You know, we all have those jingles that get stuck in our head, and it's because our brains love patterns. They love rhyming.
Right.
Yeah, and things like alliteration, or there's biases, right? We have a bias for new beginnings. So if you're trying to sell a product that is about a new beginning, doing it on a Monday, those ads
Yeah.
are really going to hit home differently than if you did it on a Wednesday. Nobody wants to try something new on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So it was really just like, what's that psychology behind these tiny nuanced decisions that we make?
Right. Right. In another session too, where it was like the beginning of, you know, when people are trying new beginnings, it's a lot more likely to happen at the beginning of the week, at the beginning of the month, at the beginning of the year than it is like on the second or third.
They called it a temporal landmark.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yes, a fancy word for it. Yeah, it's curious.
You took
I like it.
you took better notes than I.
I did. I'm a note taker because my memory is not to be relied on.
Well, I have never been to South by before. And so if you were to give advice to someone who's, you know, they're going to be attending, you know, South by for the first time, what are some of like the biggest, you know, tips or advice that you would give them to get the most out of the experience?
Wear good shoes.
Step one.
I did not. I had to go buy shoes at the conference. Yeah, because I thought it was all going to be in one hotel. No, it was across like 5 hotels and 2 restaurants, and it was so much walking.
Yeah. I think an additional practical one is stay in downtown. Like don't get a place that's far away.
Yeah.
To drive every day, because like there's stuff going on like morning, day, night, evening, late night. Like the entire day is jam packed, and even throughout the day, you might want to go home or go to the hotel and take a nap, come back, and keep going.
So you want to be close by.
You want to be close by the action.
Yeah, I think there's events from like 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. around there.
Yeah.
So it's a huge window. On that note, make your schedule early. And there are some things you have to RSVP for, and those filled up instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the mentorships.
Yeah.
I would have loved to go to some of those, but I was not fast enough.
Yeah. RSVP early. I think another thing that I think you and Hayden, our copywriter, what did very well was explore things outside of just the branding and advertising track. So if you're like going for branding and advertisement, there's going to be so much content for that. And yes, like all of it is really, really engaging. I spent a lot of my time in that one space where they were having the track and doing that stuff. I did maybe like 2 or 3 outside of that space. But the things that I did outside of that environment, outside of the branding and advertising track, were really, really impactful, really engaging, really interesting.
You have to fan your own passions, because at the end of the day, that's what keeps you going, and bringing in your unique passions, your unique perspectives really brings a lot to the table in general.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite ones was about NASA and how they're using some different artistries to bring the data to the people.
Yeah.
And to bring, you know, the science to the people. And that was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I was surprised by seeing how much data visualization was involved, because that is a part of what I do. And now I can take that into my world and have fun with it.
Yeah. You know, NASA is kind of like the quintessential like brand, you know, like it's like, when I thought about branding, I think about that brand book that NASA has, that it showcases all of the things that they did in the 70s, and it's still like really relevant and really fascinating, really cool. And so it's always, I at first did not understand why NASA had such a distinguished brand and a distinguished like look and feel. But then after doing some research and just like some, you know, now knowing what I know now about marketing and stuff, and about geopolitics and stuff, NASA really relies on the support of the people to think that it's a cool thing to do, right? And the cooler people think it is to do, space exploration, the more they get the opportunity to do that. And I think kind of goes hand in hand with what we do with brand stuff, right? We're giving organizations who really have a positive contribution to the world, giving them, the opportunity to showcase that to more and more people so that they can support those organizations.
Right, because at one point or another, we probably owned something with the NASA logo on it, a t-shirt, a hat, water bottle, something.
I have a hat.
Yeah.
It's the only hat I have.
But yeah, if you're, going to support something that cool, you need a nice logo that kind of is fun to show off.
Yeah.
So, Ashton, I heard you mentioned something around a topic of laws and levers. So talk to us a little bit about that and kind of some of the valuable information that you took away from that session.
Okay, yeah. One of my favorite talks to go to, I don't remember his name, but in my head, he's Bill Nye, the marketing guy. And he introduced the 5 laws and the levers of behavioral science, which has been a favorite topic today. But, it's such a part of everything we do. And basically what he did is he laid out there are 5 principles across all brands that are true no matter what. And it really surprised me because if you think about it, this is all knowledge we have, but we never put those dots together. And the example he gave is he has a buddy who's really into outdoorsy stuff. And he was like, hey, do me a favor. I'm a scientist, so I ask weird questions. But go in your closet and tell me all the different brands you have. And then tell me what your favorite is. And his favorite was Patagonia, right? But he only had 2 things from them. And then the rest were from like REI, Nike, like 13 different brands. And so, we all like to think about brand loyalty and how important that is. And it is. But at the end of the day, we don't just exclusively go out and buy one pair of jeans, most of us. We have different shirts, different jeans, different electronics, different sports equipment. Which he called the repertoire of brands. And these are things that maybe we know in the very back of our head, but we forget to bring out when we're thinking about how consumers interact with brands. Because every brand has their hardcore fans. You're a Coke person or your Dr. Pepper person, right? The wars. But they probably, even with soda, they find that over time, people do buy a lot of different sodas. It really made me analyze kind of the biases and the pre-made up mind that I have about different things and how we can bring the human experience back into our strategy.
Right.
But on like a real, tangible data kind of way and not just assume.
Right.
And then he talked about the levers. And the levers are like laws, but they only work situationally. And one lever that is very popular is purpose. Not every brand can be purpose-driven, even though, that's a great place for a lot of brands to be. But like he gave the example, it's like, what is the purpose of your toilet paper brand that you buy? Most of us don't know, right? So there are certain brands where, that's not going to be the greatest lever to pull for the greatest impact.
Right.
So really thinking about what your levers are for your brand is going to help it stand out in a really great way. And I really just loved his entire perspective on that because even though I'm a creative director and I love art, I love data and science as well. So it's kind of the perfect marrying of those two.
Yeah. I love the repertoire buyer model. Like when he said that, it just like turned on a light bulb in my head because it's true. Like when we as marketers, strategists, Myca, I know that you can kind of relate to this. Like when we're talking to clients, it's sometimes easy to say, like we're building brand loyalty. It's really like this is the core of your shopper, this person that you're marketing to. They're going to see you as their only option, right? When is in fact, they may prefer us over somebody else or some other brand, some other organization of that brand we're working with, but they're still gonna have relationships with other brands. And knowing the full scope of what their perspective is on their decision-making process makes us better marketers, makes us build better brands and better assets for our clients because we understand that full scope, right? Instead of looking at it through just a tiny little keyhole and being like, yes, we're the perfect fit, right, for them.
Or like just following a template, because I think it's easy to do, right? It's easy to be like, well, this worked here.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. But that's not the best solution. There's nothing audacious about that, right?
Right. The other one on purpose brands, and it is a very big lever that a lot of people are pulling. But I went to a session at the Denmark Denmark Creative House, and they had a speaker who was the name of the topic was the future of marketing in a post-purpose era.
There you go.
Which was very, very interesting.
It was very like a thought-provocative title.
Oh yeah, that's why I booked it across downtown to go to this one.
You booked it across town? Did you get on a scooter?
I booked it across town. I did jump on a scooter. No, I jumped on a Lime bike, which is a little more interesting because it went a lot faster. But I haven't been on a bike in a while.
Is it the motored bikes or?
Yeah, it is. But you still have to pedal.
Yeah.
A little.
So it just gives you a little boost.
Yeah, you go all really fast, but yeah, still gives you. It's still exercise.
Just makes those uphills a little less scary.
Yeah. But it was a great time. I showed up. I was listening to it, really excited about like learning about something after kind of the thing that I preach in a lot of my discussions with clients is like be more purpose driven. Find ways to communicate your purpose and let people connect with you on your purpose instead of on your product. Because if it's just on your product, then it's only going to be based on its like how much does it cost, how useful it is, instead of building that brand loyalty. Like I'm going to use you every single time I think about something,
right?
About that specific thing. And so it was really interesting for me to go to learn about post-purpose era. And what I really found out was that there really isn't an understanding right now, at least from that talk, about what happens after purpose. I think that purpose-driven messaging and branding and stuff is still very much alive for the right brands, of course, right? My toilet paper doesn't need a purpose necessarily.
Yeah, but
do a job.
Would you buy a toilet paper with purpose if like it was on the front? Do you think that might influence your decision?
We do in our household talk a lot about like, is the paper that we're buying and the products recyclable? Are they from,
right.
Are they recycled when we're using them?
And I guess maybe if there were, I tend to like be drawn to products that might say something like, with your purchase, 10% of your proceeds go to, X, like if there's some kind of social impact, aspect to it. But there's something about toilet paper where that feels like almost offensive.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what I mean? Because it's like,
I don't know. If
do with toilet paper.
Yeah. If I had toilet paper that said they had like a negative footprint, I'd be like, oh, cool. But you have to be comfortable. You have to be like the soft toilet paper.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, my comfort would win out.
Yeah.
I know that maybe that's selfish.
That's from everything.
But I do buy the Dawn dish soap because it helps baby ducks.
There we go.
So, I mean, also I switched over to Lyft after I heard like their social conscious efforts. Yeah. So, I think I'd always been an Uber person because I had a bad Lyft experience really early on. And then I learned about how they're helping women with free Lyft rides get health services. And I was like, that's a big deal to me. And that did work on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that there's a place for it, right? Yeah. But in almost, especially for like the clients that we've worked with in the past, like that's definitely been at the core. We can pull that purpose lever and it works effectively.
Yeah.
But I went to this session expecting to hear what it is, but they really that's kind of the core of it right now. At least what we're in our industry, it's really what we're focused on. And he had a great conversation about like, having to understand the purpose of your product and what people are going to resonate for. You really need to experience how that is being used by your audience, right? You need to put yourself in their shoes. And he talked about how he worked with Pampers on bringing the Pampers brand of diapers to the Indian market, and really, what he did was basically spend 2 consecutive days and nights with a mom with her baby, and he was the one responsible to change the diaper. And he was like, yeah, I mean, there's no air conditioning. It's in the middle of the summer. It's in India. It's like 150 degrees, and you're just in the middle of the night changing this diaper, and it's not the greatest thing in the world, but it really shows like what's going to be important to that user for you to then create, a brand messaging around what's important for them. And for them, it was, figuring out how to make diapers really easy to change, really easy to use, and make it so it's not so smelly when it's out in the sun, right?
Yeah. That does circle back to the levers, because a lever that works in one market doesn't work in the other, or under a certain circumstance. So it does make sense.
Yeah, it has to be purposeful for that segment, And that's something we talk about too. Is like, you don't have just one client. You have multiple, and they have some similarities in how they use how they use your product. Obviously, like there's a unifying factor with them, but you also need to make sure that you're kind of like providing the right message for the right person.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
On that note, it's been great talking to you both about being audacious, South by Southwest, creative endeavors in general. We've kind of changed the setting of our podcast a little bit. We kind of looked at what we did with our first 4 episodes, and we really liked those episodes, but we kind of wanted it to be a little bit more flowy. I would say more station. I think it came up to our meeting about the podcast, and I was like, I feel like we're interviewing people.
Interrogating them. Yeah.
I just pictured the light bulb.
It was really dark in that room, so I think it even pushed that a little bit.
It did.
That imagery.
But no, I mean, they were great conversations, and I still want to continue having really good conversations. It just, it kind of fits more of our vibe, kind of how we ended up talking about stuff. We're talking about work anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had fun.
Me too. All right. That's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Undeniable Culture podcast. To learn more, please head to undeniableculture.com. You can find more episodes, and you can find some more information about us and Undaunted Agency in general. And we will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.